Sarah Martinez never expected her morning jog by the river to turn into a life-or-death rescue. The waitress and single mother of two had always lived paycheck to paycheck, working double shifts just to keep food on the table. But when she heard the screams that autumn morning, she didn't hesitate. Without thinking of her own safety, she plunged into the raging waters, fighting against the current to reach the drowning woman. She couldn't have known that the stranger she pulled from the river was Emily Chen, the reclusive heir to a tech fortune worth billions. As Sarah performed CPR on the riverbank, she had no idea her act of courage would soon transform both their lives forever. Could this chance encounter between two women from different worlds lead to something extraordinary? Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The morning after the rescue, Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she pinned her scratched name tag to her uniform. Sarah M. 12 years of service, it proclaimed in faded letters, each scratch and dent a testament to countless hours of carrying plates and dreams with equal determination. The familiar weight of it against her chest was both comforting and constraining. Mama, my science project, 10-year-old Miguel's voice carried from the small apartment's kitchen, where he sat surrounded by half-finished poster board and scattered markers. His sister Luna, 13, going on 30, was already packing both their lunches, her dark hair neatly braided despite the early hour. I'll help you finish it tonight, mijo, Sarah promised, checking her reflection in the cracked bathroom mirror. The woman staring back looked tired but determined, her olive skin marked by smile lines that spoke of joy found even in hardship. Mrs. Rodriguez will watch you both until I'm done with the late shift. Luna's expression tightened, almost imperceptibly. I can watch Miguel, Mom. I'm old enough. Sarah crossed to her daughter, cupping her face gently. You're already doing so much, mi amor. Let me give you one more year of being a kid, okay? The walk to Jerry's diner took exactly 12 minutes at a brisk pace. Sarah had timed it countless times, knowing precisely which shortcuts would save her precious seconds when running late. This morning her muscles ached from yesterday's river rescue, but she couldn't afford to slow down. The diner's neon sign buzzed fitfully in the pre-dawn gloom, its R perpetually flickering. Inside, the scent of coffee and bacon grease wrapped around her like an old friend's embrace. Sarah tied her apron with practiced movements, mentally calculating how many extra tips she'd need this week to cover Miguel's growing feet and Luna's. School supplies. There's our hero, Jerry himself called from behind the griddle, his round face beaming. Channel 5 was in here last night asking about you. I told them you'd be too modest to want the attention. Sarah felt heat rise to her cheeks. You know me well. Besides, anyone would have done the same. Not anyone. Maria, the other morning waitress, corrected as she refilled sugar dispensers. Most people would have called 911 and hoped for the best. You jumped right in. Speaking of jumping in, Jerry added, Table 6 has been waiting for their coffee refill for 3 minutes. Sarah grabbed the coffee pot, seamlessly sliding back into her routine. Table 6 meant Mr. Henderson, who came in every morning at 8 a.m. 45 a.m. sharp, ordered the same breakfast, 2 eggs over easy, wheat toast dry, coffee black, and left the same tip, exactly 15%, calculated to the penny. His wife had passed 2 years ago, and Sarah suspected the diner's predictability helped fill the void. Good morning, Mr. Henderson, she greeted, topping off his cup. The usual? He looked up from his newspaper, eyes crinkling behind wire-rimmed glasses. Sarah, my dear, I saw what you did yesterday, brave girl. His weathered hand trembled slightly as he reached for the coffee. Reminds me of my Eleanor. She had that same spark in her. Sarah felt her throat tighten. She was a special lady. That she was. He folded his paper carefully. You know, she always said you reminded her of herself when she was young. Single mother, working hard, never letting life dim that light inside. The morning rush descended then, a tide of regulars and travellers seeking coffee, comfort food, and perhaps a moment of connection in their hurried lives. Sarah moved between tables with practiced grace, remembering preferences, juggling orders, making each customer feel seen. The truck driver in booth 3 wants his eggs runny but not too runny, she called to Jerry, simultaneously calculating change for a family of 4. Definition of runny is relative, Jerry grumbled good-naturedly, but Sarah knew he'd get it exactly right. That was their dance, had been for 12 years. By mid-morning, her feet were already protesting. But Sarah pushed the discomfort aside. She couldn't afford to show weakness, not when bills loomed and her children's needs grew daily. Luna needed new glasses, and Miguel's asthma medication wasn't fully covered by their insurance. During her brief break, Sarah sat in the back alley, feet propped on an overturned milk crate. She pulled out a worn notebook, its pages filled with careful calculations and dreams scribbled in margins, community college courses circled in hopeful red ink, then crossed out when the numbers wouldn't add up. A business plan for her own cafe, endlessly revised but never quite feasible. Taking the late shift again? Maria asked, poking her head out the back door. Sarah nodded, tucking the notebook away. Bills don't pay themselves. You should be resting after yesterday. That river could have killed you. The river's not half as scary as letting my kids down. Sarah stood, brushing off her uniform. Besides, I'm fine, just a few bruises. But as she pushed through the swinging doors, back into the diner's controlled, in chaos, Sarah felt the weight of more than just physical exhaustion. She loved her children fiercely, would move mountains for them. But sometimes she wondered if love alone was enough to give them the future they deserved. The lunch rush brought its own rhythm, a different crowd with different needs. Sarah juggled plates and personalities, soothed an angry customer whose order was delayed, celebrated with a young couple who had just gotten engaged. Each interaction was a reminder of life's continuous flow, its moments of joy and struggle, all mixed together like the specials on Jerry's ever-changing board. Through it all, her name tag caught the fluorescent light, its scratches telling a story of persistence, of dignity found in honest work, of a woman who refused to let circumstances define her children's future. Sarah touched it occasionally like a talisman, drawing strength from the simple fact of endurance. What she couldn't know was that across town, in a pristine office tower that seemed to belong to another world entirely, Emily Chen was asking her assistant to find out everything they could about the waitress who had pulled her from the river. The wheels of change were already in motion, though Sarah's worn name tag would continue to tell its story of struggle for a little while longer. In her private hospital suite, Emily Chen stared at the business card hidden in her wallet's secret compartment. Emily Chen, Executive Director, Chen Global Technologies. It read in understated gold lettering. She traced the embossed letters with her fingertip, remembering her father's voice. With great power comes great responsibility, not great privilege. The nurse who'd been checking her vitals mistook her contemplation for confusion. The doctor says you're lucky, Miss Smith. If that waitress hadn't been there... Emily let the alias stand. Jane Smith. It was amazing how a simple name could render you invisible. She'd checked in under it after Sarah's quick thinking had restored her breathing on the riverbank. Now, watching dawn paint the city skyline through floor-to-ceiling windows, Emily wondered if perhaps it was time to step out of the shadows. Her phone buzzed. 17 missed calls from the board, 23 from her executive assistant, and 1 from her grandmother. The last made her wince. Popo had always seen through her disguises. Ms. Smith? A doctor entered, tablet in hand. Your test results are clear. You can be discharged this morning. Thank you. Emily sat up, noting how the medical staff's eyes slid past her, seeing nothing remarkable in another Asian American woman of modest dress. The art of invisibility, perfected over years. Once alone, she pulled out her laptop, fingers flying over the keys as she accessed her private server. The screen filled with data about Sarah Martinez, employment history, financial records, social media presence. Emily had learned early that knowledge was power, but also that power without purpose was meaningless. A soft knock interrupted her research. "Still hiding, May?" Emily looked up to find her grandmother in the doorway, elegant as always, in her hand-tailored suit. Popo's expression held equal measures of concern and amusement. "I had my reasons," Emily said in Mandarin, reverting to their private language. Popo settled into the visitor's chair with characteristic grace. "You always do, but perhaps fate has other plans." She gestured to the laptop screen. "Tell me about her." Emily hesitated. She has 2 children, works double shifts, somehow still finds time to take community college classes online when who can afford them, and she didn't hesitate to risk her life for a stranger. "Like your mother would have done." Popo's words hung in the air between them. The comparison struck home. Emily's mother had come from humble beginnings, working as a waitress while putting herself through night school. She'd caught the eye of Emily's father, then a young tech entrepreneur, when she'd stopped a thief from stealing his laptop, containing the code that would later become Chen Global's foundation. "The board won't understand," Emily said finally. "The board doesn't need to understand. They need to follow. It's time, May. Your father built this company on innovation, but your mother taught him about heart. You have both." Emily closed her laptop slowly. For 3 years since inheriting her father's controlling share of Chen Global, she'd worked behind the scenes, evaluating the company's impact on real lives. She'd waited tables incognito, worked retail, lived in modest apartments, all to understand the world her wealth insulated her from. "I have an idea," she said carefully, "but it's either brilliant or crazy." Popo's eyes twinkled. "All brilliant ideas sound crazy at first. It's what makes them brilliant." Emily pulled out her phone, dismissing the flood of notifications to dial her assistant. "James, I need you to set up a full background check on Sarah Martinez. And then I need you to clear my schedule for the next month." She could hear James's barely concealed panic. "The board meeting on Thursday can wait. Something more important has come up." Emily met her grandmother's approving gaze. "It's time to do what this company was meant to do." After ending the call, Emily stood at the window, watching the city wake up. Somewhere out there, Sarah Martinez was probably already at work, unaware that her act of courage had set much larger wheels in motion. "Your father would be proud," Popo said softly, joining her at the window. "He always said the true measure of success isn't in what you gain, but in what you give back." Emily touched the business card in her pocket, feeling its weight, not of paper but of possibility. "Then let's give back in a way that would make them both proud." Tomorrow, she would shed her carefully constructed anonymity. But today, she had plans to make and a life to change. Perhaps 2 lives, if she was honest with herself. After all, saving someone's life created a certain responsibility, didn't it? In her pocket, her phone buzzed again with board members' demands for attention. Emily smiled, remembering Sarah's unwavering focus as she'd performed CPR. Sometimes the most important decisions weren't made in boardrooms, but on riverbanks. The morning newspaper sat folded on Emily's desk, its headline modest but clear. "Local waitress saves woman from river." The article was brief, tucked away on page 6, but Emily had read it a dozen times. The photo showed Sarah in her diner uniform, clearly uncomfortable with the attention, declining further comment. "The board members are getting restless," James said, setting down a fresh cup of green tea. "Mr. Patterson called twice this morning." Emily continued studying the article. "What do we know about her children's school?" James consulted his tablet. "Luna and Miguel Martinez, Roosevelt Public School. Luna's in 8th grade, excellent grades but struggling with poor classroom resources. Miguel's in 5th, gifted in science, but needs better access to asthma medication." Across town, Sarah was dealing with exactly that issue. "I understand the copay increased," she said into her phone, tucking it between ear and shoulder as she refilled coffee cups. "But he needs that inhaler. Can we work out some kind of payment plan?" The pharmacy's response made her heart sink. Behind her, the TV mounted in the diner's corner droned on about Chen Global Technology's latest innovation in medical technology. Sarah barely registered it, too focused on calculating whether she could pick up an extra Sunday shift. "Mom!" Miguel's voice cut through her worries as he burst through the diner's door, waving a paper. "I got an A on my science project." Sarah's face lit up, worries temporarily forgotten. "Que maravilloso, show me." The project board detailed a simple but clever experiment about water pressure. Sarah felt a familiar pang. With better resources, Miguel could do so much more. In her corner office 50 floors above the city, Emily watched similar science projects being presented to Chen Global's development team. Fresh-faced engineers with degrees from elite universities pitched ideas that would cost millions to develop. "Ms. Chen?" Her assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts. "The background check on Sarah Martinez is complete." Emily took the file, noting its thinness. No criminal record, no debt beyond the usual struggles of working-class life, just a single mother doing her best with limited resources. "There's something else," James added. "Her daughter Luna, she submitted an application for our STEM scholarship program last year." Emily looked up sharply. "What happened?" "She made it to the finals but was eliminated. The deciding factor was her lack of access to advanced placement courses. Her school doesn't offer them." Emily felt a familiar frustration. The system was designed to perpetuate itself, keeping talented kids like Luna trapped by circumstances beyond their control. Back at Roosevelt Public School, Luna sat in her math class, half listening as her teacher apologized for the broken smartboard. Again. Her textbook was held together with tape, but her calculations were precise, filling the margins with problems far beyond the assigned work. "You should be in advanced math," her teacher had told her privately. But without the AP program, Luna had just nodded, used to hearing about things that should be, but couldn't be. In the Chen Global boardroom, Emily stood before a wall of screens displaying company metrics. "Our educational outreach program reaches less than 2% of eligible students," she said, interrupting a presentation about quarterly profits. "We're missing huge potential. Our focus is technology, not social work," Patterson objected. The shareholders invested in innovation," Emily cut in. "Tell me, where do you think the next great innovation will come from? The same privileged pools we always fish in, or the vast ocean of talent we're ignoring?" She brought up a new slide, Roosevelt Public Schools statistics. "This is just one school in our own city. Imagine the potential we're wasting." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Emily felt her grandmother's approving presence in the back of the room. Later that afternoon, Sarah counted her tips with methodical precision. The extra Sunday shift would help, but Miguel's inhaler was only one of many needs. Luna needed new glasses, the rent was increasing, and the car's check engine light had been on for weeks. The diner's door chimed. Sarah looked up to see a young Asian woman in simple business casual attire, the kind that only looked simple to those who couldn't recognize quality. "Welcome to Jerry's," Sarah said automatically, reaching for her order pad. Emily Chen took a seat at the counter, her business card burning a hole in her pocket. The moment of truth had arrived. "Actually," she said quietly, "I think we've met before. By the river." Sarah froze, recognition dawning in her eyes. Behind them, the TV continued its report about Chen Global's innovations, neither woman paying attention to Emily's own face briefly appearing on the screen. Sarah's hand tightened on her order pad as memories of the river rescue flooded back. The woman before her looked different now, dry, composed, dressed in what Sarah's instincts told her was expensive simplicity. But the eyes were the same, "I've been wanting to thank you properly," Emily said, placing a sleek leather portfolio on the counter. "Do you have a moment to talk?" "I'm working," Sarah replied automatically, even as Jerry caught her eye from the grill and nodded his approval. The lunch rush was over, and only Mr. Henderson remained, nursing his third coffee. "Refill, please, it's important." Something in Emily's tone made Sarah hesitate. She untied her apron and slid onto the stool next to her former rescue victim, trying to ignore the contrast between her worn uniform and Emily's casual elegance. "First, I should introduce myself properly." Emily pulled a business card from the portfolio. "My name is Emily Chen." Sarah took the card, its weight and texture speaking of authority. As she read the title, her eyes widened. "Chen Global Technologies? The tech company?" "Yes." Emily's smile was soft but direct, though I prefer to keep that quiet when I can. "The river?" Sarah said slowly. "You were there because I like to understand how real people live. It helps me make better decisions." Emily opened the portfolio, revealing a document with Chen Global's letterhead. "Which brings me to why I'm here." Sarah's instincts, honed by years of sizing up customers, sent a warning signal. "If this is about money, I don't want—" "This isn't charity," Emily interrupted gently. "It's an opportunity for both of us." She slid the document across the counter. Sarah scanned it, her heart beginning to race. "Director of Community Impact Assessment. I'm a waitress. You're a single mother who put herself through 2 years of community college while working double shifts. Who knows more about community impact than someone who lives it every day?" Sarah's mind whirled. The salary figure made her fingers tremble. "I don't have a degree. I don't know anything about corporate. You know everything that matters." Emily's voice took on an intensity that commanded attention. "You know how policy changes affect real families. You understand what it means to make choices between medicine and rent. You see firsthand how education funding impacts children's futures." "Like Miguel's science projects," Sarah murmured, "and Luna's advanced math abilities." At Sarah's surprised. "Look," Emily added, "yes, I know about your children. I know about Luna's STEM scholarship application. I know about Miguel's asthma. I know about your online business classes." Sarah stiffened. "You investigated me? I needed to understand who saved my life." Emily met her gaze steadily. "What I found was exactly the person we need. Someone who understands both struggle and strength. Someone who jumps into rivers to save strangers. That's different. That was instinct." "Exactly. You have instincts about people, about what they need, about how to help. We have programs that are supposed to help communities, but they're designed by people who've never missed a rent payment or worried about a child's medicine." Sarah looked down at the business card again, its gold lettering catching the diner's fluorescent light. "Your board would never accept someone like me. They'll accept who I choose to hire." Emily's tone held steel beneath its silk. "I inherited controlling interest in Chen Global. More importantly, I inherited my parents' vision of technology serving humanity, not just shareholders." The diner's door chimed as Mr. Henderson finally left, leaving a precise tip as always. Sarah watched him go, thinking of all the stories she knew about her regular customers' lives, their struggles, their small victories. "I have responsibilities here," she said softly. "You have responsibilities to your children too." Emily's voice gentled. "Luna could have access to advanced placement courses. Miguel could join our STEM development program. And you could finally use that business acumen you've been developing all these years." Sarah's hand went to her name tag. It's familiar, scratches grounding her. "I don't want my children to think you can only get ahead through lucky breaks. Is it lucky to work double shifts for 12 years? To study online after your kids are asleep? To jump into a river to save someone?" Emily closed the portfolio carefully. "This isn't luck, Sarah. This is recognition of value." The afternoon sun slanted through the diner's windows, casting long shadows across the proposal that could change everything. Sarah thought of Luna's quiet determination, of Miguel's brilliant ideas limited by resources, of her own dreams carefully boxed away, but never quite forgotten. "I'll need time to think," she said finally. Emily stood, leaving her card on top of the portfolio. "Take the weekend." "But Sarah," she waited until their eyes met. "Sometimes the bravest thing isn't jumping into the river, it's letting yourself be carried to a new shore." Sarah's resignation letter felt heavier than its single page should allow. She'd written and rewritten it a dozen times over the weekend, each version attempting to encapsulate 12 years of loyalty, friendship, and shared struggles into a few professional paragraphs. "You're really leaving?" Maria asked, tears welling in her eyes as Sarah handed the letter to Jerry. The morning sun hadn't yet reached the diner's windows, but the small staff had gathered early after Sarah had texted them all. Jerry read the letter slowly, his reading glasses perched on his nose. His usual jovial expression was solemn. "Chen Global Technologies, huh? The one from the news?" Sarah nodded, her throat tight. "It's an opportunity I can't pass up, for the kids." "For you too," Jerry corrected, folding the letter carefully. "You've been ready for bigger things for a long time, Sarah. We all knew it." The small group of morning staff surrounded her with hugs and well wishes, their genuine joy tinged with sadness. Mr. Henderson, arriving for his usual breakfast, insisted on buying coffee for everyone to celebrate. "Eleanor would be proud," he said, pressing a small wrapped package into her hands, "for your new desk." Later, alone in her apartment, Sarah opened it to find a small silver frame holding a photo of the diner staff from last Christmas. Her fingers traced the familiar faces, wondering if she was crazy to leave this known world for the uncertainties ahead. "Mom!" Luna stood in the doorway watching her. "Are you scared?" Sarah patted the couch beside her. "Come here, mi amor." Luna curled up next to her, suddenly looking younger than her 13 years. "I heard you crying last night. Sometimes we cry because we're sad, sometimes because we're happy, and sometimes because we're both at once." Sarah stroked her daughter's hair. "But you know what makes me sure this is right, the way your eyes lit up when I told you about the advanced math programs, and Miguel's face when you mentioned the STEM program," Luna added, smiling. "Speaking of your brother, Miguel, come out here." Miguel emerged from his room, clutching his science project. "Is it time?" Sarah checked her watch. "Almost. First, I need you both to understand something. What's happening, it's not magic. It's not a fairy tale. I'm still going to work hard, maybe harder than ever. But in an office instead of a diner," Miguel said, "with computers and everything. The point is," Sarah continued, "opportunities come in different ways. Sometimes they come because someone sees your value. But that value, we built it together, every day, doing our best, even when it was hard." Luna's eyes were serious. "Like when you kept taking business classes even though you were tired." "Exactly. So this isn't just my opportunity, it's ours. But I need you both to be brave with me. Things will be different." "Different is good," Miguel declared with 10-year-old certainty. "Can I bring my science project to show your new boss?" Sarah laughed, pulling them both close. "Let's get through my first day first, okay?" That first day arrived with a mix of terror and exhilaration. Sarah stood in front of her bedroom mirror, wearing one of the 2 business outfits she'd bought with her last tips. The woman staring back looked both familiar and strange. Ms. Martinez. A sleek company car waited outside her apartment building, the driver professional and courteous. Her children's eyes were wide as they watched her step into this new world. The Gen Global building rose into the morning sky, all glass and steel and possibility. Sarah's hand clutched her old diner name tag in her pocket, a talisman of where she'd come from. "Welcome to Chen Global," Emily greeted her in the lobby, her smile genuine. "Ready to change some lives?" Sarah thought of her resignation letter, of Jerry's understanding, of her children's hope. She thought of all the other families out there, struggling and dreaming like she had. "Ready," she said, and stepped forward into her new future, carrying the strength of her past with her. The designer suit hung in Sarah's new office like a question mark. Emily had arranged for a corporate stylist to deliver a starter wardrobe, insisting it was standard for executive positions. The price tag of a single blazer equaled 2 weeks of Sarah's former salary. "Consider it part of your onboarding," Emily had said when Sarah protested, "like your computer or your desk." Now, alone in her corner office with its floor-to-ceiling windows, Sarah ran her fingers over the suit's fine wool. The label read Burberry, a name she'd only seen in magazines. Her reflection in the window showed a woman caught between worlds. Her bargain store outfit somehow both too much and not enough for this gleaming corporate environment. "Ms. Martinez," her new assistant Thomas appeared at the door. "The morning briefing starts in 10 minutes. Would you like me to walk you through the executive floor protocols?" Sarah nodded, grateful for the lifeline. Thomas was young, efficiently professional and, she suspected, assigned by Emily to help ease her transition. "The key players will all be there," he explained as they walked. "Mr. Patterson from finance always sits at the head of the table. Tradition, not authority. Ms. Chen usually takes the middle seat, which lets her observe everyone." They passed offices larger than Sarah's entire apartment, each occupied by people who looked like they'd been born in business attire. A woman in an impeccable white suit gave Sarah a calculating once-over before turning back to her phone call. "That's Victoria Hawthorne, head of strategic development," Thomas whispered. "She has opinions about Ms. Chen's management style." The conference room buzzed with pre-meeting conversation that died as Sarah entered. Emily was already there, giving her an encouraging smile. "Everyone, please welcome Sarah Martinez, our new Director of Community Impact Assessment." Emily's tone held a subtle steel that silenced any immediate objections. "Interesting choice," Victoria commented, her smile not reaching her eyes. "I wasn't aware we were expanding that department." "We're reimagining it," Emily corrected. "Sarah brings valuable real-world perspective to our community initiatives." "Real-world perspective?" Patterson raised an eyebrow. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Sarah felt her cheeks burn, but kept her voice steady. "I call it understanding your target communities because I've lived in them. I call it knowing what policies look like on the ground, not just on paper." A younger executive, Roberts, according to his nameplate, leaned forward with interest. "You mean like our education initiatives?" "Exactly." Sarah pulled out her tablet, grateful for the weekend Thomas had spent teaching her the basics. "Take Roosevelt Public School, where my children attend. Your STEM scholarship program is excellent, but it doesn't address the root problems." She brought up the school statistics on the main screen. Talented students can't qualify for advanced programs that don't exist. They can't take online courses without reliable internet access. They can't stay after school for extra help if their parents need them home to watch younger siblings. Victoria tapped her perfectly manicured nails on the table. "And you propose we solve all of society's problems?" "I propose we make our existing programs work better by understanding the real barriers." Sarah met her gaze steadily. "It's not just about throwing money at problems. It's about building bridges across gaps we don't even see from up here." Emily's smile widened slightly. Patterson shifted in his seat, looking thoughtful despite himself. "Ms. Martinez raises some interesting points," Roberts ventured. "Our last quarter showed a 40% underutilization rate in our community programs. If we could improve that efficiency by hiring a waitress as an executive," Victoria's whisper carried deliberately, "by hiring someone who understands both worlds," Emily cut in smoothly. "Someone who can help us see our blind spots." The meeting continued, a dance of power and perception. Sarah contributed when she could, stayed quiet when necessary, and absorbed everything. She noticed the alliances, the subtle power plays, the way Emily managed the room with quiet authority. Later, back in her office, Sarah changed into the Burberry suit. The fabric felt like armor, but a glance in the mirror showed her it was more than that. It was a bridge between worlds, like she would need to be. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luna. "First advanced math assessment today. Scared but excited, Sarah." Smiled, touching the diner name tag she'd tucked into her new blazer pocket. In the reflection, she saw not just the designer suit, but the strength that had earned her the right to wear it. A knock at her door revealed Emily. "Ready for your first department meeting? You'll be presenting our new community engagement strategy." Sarah straightened her shoulders, feeling the weight of both worlds and the possibility of bringing them together. "Ready?" Emily stood in her private office after hours, holding a weathered photograph she normally kept locked in her desk. The image showed a young Asian woman in a waitress uniform, her smile bright despite obvious exhaustion, standing outside a small diner, not unlike Jerry's. On the back in faded ink, "Helen's first day at Lucky's, 1985. "You never told me you kept that photo," Popo said from the doorway. Emily didn't turn. Mom never liked talking about those days, but they were important, weren't they? They made her who she was. Popo crossed the room with elegant grace, taking the photo gently. "And they made your father fall in love with her." "The board thinks I'm repeating history," Emily said quietly, "bringing in another waitress, trying to reshape the company. The board didn't know your mother when she was Helen Wu, working double shifts and studying engineering at night." Poe's voice held steel beneath its silk. "They only knew Helen Chen, the brilliant strategist who helped turn a startup into an empire." Through the wall of windows, they could see Sarah in her office across the atrium, deep in conversation with Roberts from product development. Even from this distance, her gestures were animated, passionate. "She reminds me of Mom," Emily admitted. "That same fire. Is that why you chose her?" "I chose her because she jumped into a river to save a stranger." Emily took the photo back, studying her mother's young face. "But yes, seeing that fire, it helped me understand what Dad saw in Mom. The courage to risk everything for what you believe in." Popo settled into one of the office's leather chairs. "Your mother believed in your father's vision of technology serving humanity. What does Sarah believe in? Her children, their future, the idea that talent shouldn't be wasted because of circumstance." Emily smiled slightly. "Sound familiar?" "Very." Popo's eyes grew distant. "I remember when your mother first proposed. Expanding our educational programs. The board fought her then too. Called it charity disguised as business. Until she proved it was an investment in future talent." Emily placed the photo on her desk next to her screens displaying market data and project timelines. "We lost that vision somewhere along the chow. Away, got too focused on quarterly reports and shareholder value." A knock interrupted them. Sarah stood in the doorway, folders in hand, then froze at seeing Popo. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Please come in," Emily said. "Sarah Martinez, meet my grandmother, Margaret Chen." Popo rose with characteristic grace. "So you're the one who saved my granddaughter?" Sarah shifted uncomfortably. "Anyone would have—" "No," Popo interrupted gently. "They wouldn't, just as anyone wouldn't work double shifts for 12 years while raising 2 children and studying business." She glanced meaningfully at Emily. "Some people understand the value of hard work and sacrifice." Sarah's eyes caught the photograph on Emily's desk. Emily saw the question in them and made a decision. "That's my mother," she said, picking up the photo. "Helen Wu, before she became Helen Chen. She worked at a diner while putting herself through engineering school." Understanding dawned in Sarah's eyes as she took in the waitress uniform. The tired but determined smile, so similar to the one she'd seen in her own mirror countless times. "The board," Sarah said slowly. "They don't know about this, do they? Some of the older members do. They prefer not to remember." Emily's voice hardened slightly. "It doesn't fit their preferred narrative." "Like I don't fit their preferred narrative." "Exactly." Emily met her eyes directly. "But narratives can change. Mom proved that. Now it's our turn. Popo watched this. Exchange with approval. You brought those folders for a reason? Sarah straightened, professional mode engaging. Yes, Roberts and I have been analyzing our STEM program data. We found something interesting about the correlation between parent work schedules and student participation rates. Emily gestured to her conference table. Show me. As Sarah laid out her findings, Emily caught her grandmother's knowing smile. The photo of Helen Wu watched over them, a reminder that every great change started with someone willing to cross boundaries, to challenge expectations, to believe in possibility. We'll need to present this to the board, Emily said when Sarah finished. They won't like it. Sarah's chin lifted slightly, that familiar fire sparking. Good thing I'm used to dealing with difficult customers. Popo laughed softly. Oh, yes, she said in Mandarin to Emily, very much like your mother. Sarah's first performance review lay open on her desk, its crisp pages filled with data that told a story of transformation. 3 months in, and her community impact initiatives had increased program participation by 62%. The numbers were impressive, but it was the handwritten note at the bottom that made her pause. Exceptional insight into community needs. Strong. Potential for executive development. Recommended for fast-track leadership program. Chen. Bad news? Thomas asked from the doorway, noting her intense study of the document. Actually, no. Sarah looked up, still processing. Emily wants... In the leadership program, Thomas's eyes widened. That's huge and unusual. Most executives wait at least a year before... Before what? Victoria Hawthorne's voice cut through the air like a blade. She stood in Sarah's doorway, elegant as ever, in a tailored grey suit. Before being considered for programs they're qualified. Before? Sarah met her gaze steadily. I was just reviewing my performance metrics. Yes, I saw those. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. Quite impressive, though some of us wonder about the methodology. It's so easy to make numbers tell the story we want, isn't it? The numbers tell the truth, Sarah replied, keeping her voice even. Increased participation, improved retention, better outcomes. All independently verified. By the team you assembled? Victoria raised an eyebrow. Rather convenient. By external. Audit? Roberts appeared behind Victoria, tablet in hand. I just finished reviewing the quarterly reports. Sarah's programs aren't just succeeding. They're revolutionizing how we approach community engagement. Victoria turned, her surprise quickly masked. James, I didn't realize you were involved. The whole product development team is involved now. Roberts stepped into the office. Sarah's insights about real-world implementation have helped us redesign our educational software platform. We're seeing uptake rates we never thought possible. In low-income areas, Victoria noted. In all areas, Roberts corrected. Turns out when you design programs that work for the most challenged communities, they work better for everyone. Sarah's been helping us understand that. Sarah watched this exchange silently, noting the subtle power dynamics. Victoria's perfectly manicured hands tightened almost imperceptibly on her designer handbag. Well, Victoria said finally, the board meeting tomorrow should be interesting. I hope you're prepared, Sarah. They can be quite thorough in their questioning. After she left, Roberts turned to Sarah. She's right about one thing. You should be prepared. The old guard isn't going to make this easy. Sarah looked down at her performance review, at Emily's confident endorsement. What are they afraid of? Change, Thomas said simply. You represent everything they've spent years saying couldn't work, and now that it is working, they'll try to discredit it, Roberts finished. Or you, probably both. Sarah thought of Luna, who had just placed first in her advanced math competition. Of Miguel, whose science project on sustainable energy had earned him a spot in Chen Global's Junior Innovator Program. Of all the other children who could have similar opportunities if given the chance. Then we'll be ready, she said, pulling up her presentation files. Thomas, can you get me the latest participation data from the pilot schools? James, I'll need those implementation cost comparisons we discussed. They worked late into the evening, refining numbers, strengthening arguments, anticipating questions. Sarah's office slowly filled with coffee cups and takeout containers, her team helping her prepare for what they all knew would be a crucial test. Around midnight, Emily appeared. I thought I'd find you still here. Sarah looked up from her screens, blinking tired eyes, just making sure everything's solid for tomorrow. Emily studied the organized chaos of the office, the loyal team still working despite the hour. You know why Victoria's so threatened? Because I'm changing things. Because you're succeeding at it. Emily picked up the performance review. When my mother first started implementing her ideas, she faced the same resistance. The old guard called her an outsider, said she didn't understand corporate culture. What did she do? She proved that understanding people is more valuable than understanding corporate culture. Emily smiled. The numbers helped, but it was her insight into real human needs that transformed the company. Sarah thought of her years at the diner, learning to read people, to anticipate needs, to solve problems with limited resources. Like knowing that after-school programs don't work if parents can't afford transportation. Exactly. Emily gestured to the cluttered desk. That's what these numbers really show, not just improved metrics, but improved lives. Don't let them reduce it to just data tomorrow. Sarah nodded, drawing strength from Emily's confidence and her own growing certainty. Tomorrow would be a battle, but she'd fought harder ones. She thought of her old name tag, still kept in her desk drawer, a reminder of where she'd come from and why it mattered. They want to see me fail, she said quietly. No, Emily corrected. They're afraid to see you succeed. There's a difference. In the reflection of her office windows, Sarah could see both her past and future selves. The waitress who never gave up. The executive who was just beginning to understand her own power. Tomorrow would test both. The tabloid article appeared. On everyone's screens simultaneously, a company-wide email from an anonymous source. Chen Global's charity case. The troubled past behind the feel-good story. The headline screamed across Sarah's monitor, accompanied by grainy photos from her past that she barely remembered. Her phone buzzed with a text from Luna. Mom, kids at school are saying weird things. What's going on? Sarah's hands shook as she scrolled through the article. It was all there. Her teenage struggles, the children's absent father, the time she'd nearly lost her apartment. Every hardship twisted into scandal. Someone had dug deep, finding painful moments she'd thought long buried. Thomas burst into her office, face flushed. Sarah, I'm trying to trace the email, but don't bother. Sarah's voice was eerily calm. We know who did this. The article had Victoria's fingerprints all over it. The timing, the tone, the carefully crafted innuendo. But it wasn't just an attack on Sarah. It was a challenge to Emily's leadership, a declaration of war against the changes they were trying to make. Ms. Martinez? Her assistant's voice was hesitant. Mr. Patterson wants to see you, and the school called, about Miguel. Sarah closed her eyes briefly. Of course, the bullies would be having a field day with this. Her son, so proud of his recent science achievements, would now be facing a different kind of education. Cancel my meeting, she said, standing. You need to stay right here. Emily's voice cut through the chaos. She stood in the doorway, tablet in hand, her expression controlled but furious. The board's convening an emergency session. They're questioning your appointment. My children are being picked up by my grandmother. Popo's taking them to our house. Emily crossed to Sarah's desk, her heels clicking purposefully on the marble floor. We knew something like this might happen. We just didn't know how low they'd stoop. Sarah looked at the article again, at the old pain laid bare for corporate entertainment. They're saying I lied on my application, that I covered up my past. You didn't lie. Everything was in your background check, which I personally reviewed." Emily's voice hardened. "They're not attacking your past, Sarah. They're attacking your future, and mine." A knock at the door revealed Roberts, looking grim. "The product development team is behind you. We've all sent emails to the board detailing your contributions." "It won't matter," Sarah said quietly. "They'll say I manipulated you, that I'm manipulating everyone, playing on sympathy." "Stop!" Emily's command was sharp. "This is exactly what they want. For you to doubt yourself, to question your worth." She picked up Sarah's performance review from her desk. "These numbers are real. The changes you've made are real. The lives you've improved are real." Sarah's phone buzzed again, a photo from Popo. Luna and Miguel were in the Chen family library, surrounded by books, looking worried but safe. The sight steadied her. "The board meeting starts in an hour," Emily continued. "They'll try to enforce my hand, make me choose between protecting you and protecting the company's reputation." Her smile turned fierce. "They have no idea what they've started." Thomas cleared his throat. There's something else. The diner staff. They're here, in the lobby." Sarah blinked. "What?" "Jerry, Maria, even Mr. Henderson. They're all here, saying they won't leave until they can speak to the board about your character." A laugh bubbled up in Sarah's throat, half sob and half genuine amusement. Her past wasn't just what the tabloid painted. It was also the community she'd built. The lives she'd touched in small but meaningful ways. "Victoria didn't do her homework properly," Emily observed, her own smile growing. "She found the darkness, but missed the light. Ready to show them both." Sarah thought of her children, safe, in the Chen library, of her old co-workers standing guard in the lobby, of her new team rallying to her defense. The article glowed malevolently on her screen, but it seemed smaller now, less powerful. "Yes," she said, straightening her shoulders. "But first, I need to make one call." She dialed Luna's number, put it on speaker. "Mom." Her daughter's voice was worried but strong. "Luna, mi amor, I need you to listen carefully. What's happening today? It's not about shame. It's about power. People trying to use our past to make us feel small. Like the kids at school?" "Exactly. But we know who we are, don't we? We know what we've overcome." Luna's voice firmed. "We know where we're going." "That's my girl." Sarah met Emily's approving gaze. "Take care of your brother. I have a board meeting to attend." The tabloid article still blazed on screens throughout the building, but Sarah walked toward the boardroom with her head high. They wanted to use her past as a weapon. Fine. She'd show them how that same past had forged her into exactly who she needed to be. Emily placed a thick legal document on the boardroom table, its cover bearing Chen Global's logo and the words, "Corporate Restructuring Proposal." The board members, assembled for their emergency session, eyed it warily. "Before we discuss the tabloid article," Emily said calmly, "I want everyone to review this." Victoria reached for it first, her perfectly manicured fingers flipping through pages with increasing alarm. "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious about protecting this company's future." Emily remained standing, commanding the room. "That document outlines my plan to restructure our corporate governance. As majority shareholder, it's within my rights." Patterson leaned forward. "This is about the Martinez situation. You're overreacting." "No." Sarah's voice cut through as she entered, stack of folders in hand. "This is about something much bigger." She met Victoria's gaze directly. "Though I have to thank you for making it necessary." The board members shifted uncomfortably. Sarah laid her folders on the table, years of serving difficult customers, helping her keep her hands steady. "You all received copies of that article," she continued. "Did anyone bother to read past the headlines, to fact-check the allegations?" She opened the first folder. "Because I did, and I found something interesting." Roberts, who had slipped In behind her, connected her laptop to the main screen. A series of documents appeared. Financial records, email chains, buried memos. The same shell company that paid for that hit piece, Sarah said, also funded studies arguing against expanding our educational programs into lower-income areas. Studies that mysteriously supported maintaining the status quo. Victoria's face remained composed, but her knuckles whitened around her pen. "Follow the money," Emily added softly, "and you find out who's really afraid of change." Sarah opened another folder. Every scandal in that article, each one is a story of survival, of fighting against exactly the kind of systemic barriers our new initiatives are trying to break down. She smiled slightly. "You wanted to use my past to destroy me? That past is exactly why I'm qualified to do this job." The screens filled with new data, program success rates, cost-benefit analyses, long-term projections. These numbers tell the real story. Our community-based approach isn't just helping families like mine was. It's generating sustainable growth, creating future talent pipelines, building long-term market stability. Patterson studied the figures with growing interest. "These returns are just the beginning," Emily finished. "But they require us to stop thinking like gatekeepers and start thinking like bridge builders." She tapped the restructuring document. "Which is why this proposal creates a new oversight committee for community development initiatives. With Sarah as its head." Victoria stood abruptly. "This is emotional blackmail, using one planted article to force through radical changes." "Planted by whom?" Sarah asked quietly. The room fell silent. Emily picked up the thread. "The restructuring has been in the works for months. Today's events just confirmed its necessity." She looked around the table. "My father built this company to serve humanity through technology. My mother taught him that true innovation comes from understanding real human needs. Together they created something revolutionary." She walked to the windows. The city spread out below. "Look out there. Every light represents a life we could improve, a talent we could nurture, a future we could help build. But only if we're brave enough to change how we work. And if we refuse." Victoria's voice was tight. Emily turned back, her expression resolved. "Then as majority shareholder, I'll implement these changes anyway, but I'd rather have your support. Despite everything, I believe in this board's ability to adapt, to grow, to remember why we're really here." Sarah opened her final folder, removing a single sheet. "I've prepared my resignation letter. If you truly believe I'm a liability to this company, I'll step down." She placed it on the table. "But first, there are some people you should meet." At her nod, Thomas opened the boardroom doors. Jerry entered first, still in his diner apron. Behind him came Maria, Mr. Henderson, and a stream of familiar faces from Sarah's past. But it was the last group that caught everyone's attention. Students from their pilot programs, including Luna and Miguel, each carrying projects and presentations. "These are the lives you've been impacting," Sarah said simply. "For better or worse. Your choice." Emily picked up the resignation letter and deliberately tore it in half. "I believe we're ready to vote on the restructuring proposal." She smiled at Victoria. "Unless anyone would like to explain their connections to certain shell companies first." The room filled with the future Sarah and Emily had been fighting for. A future where bridge builders replaced gatekeepers, where talent could rise from any beginning, where change wasn't just possible, but inevitable. The vote that followed would reshape more than just Chen Global's corporate structure. It would redefine what was possible when courage met opportunity, when the past became a foundation instead of a barrier, when someone finally held the door open and said, "Come in, show us what you can do." The hospital bill arrived by email at 3 a.m., its total making Sarah's heart stop. Even with her new insurance, Miguel's emergency room visit would cost more than she'd ever imagined. The asthma attack had been severe, triggered by stress, the doctors said, from the events of the past week. She sat in the quiet hospital room, watching her son's chest rise and fall, each breath a reminder of how quickly everything could change. The monitors beeped steadily, their rhythm matching the thoughts cycling through her mind. Was it worth it? Had she pushed too hard, too fast? Luna was curled up in the visitor's chair, finally asleep after hours of worried vigilance. They'd been at Chen Global, celebrating the board's vote on the restructuring, when Miguel had collapsed during his presentation. The irony wasn't lost on Sarah, their moment of triumph interrupted by a stark reminder of their vulnerability. Ms. Martinez? A nurse appeared with more forms to sign. The respiratory specialist wants to discuss a long-term treatment plan. Sarah stared at the paperwork, the costs mounting with each page. Her new salary was generous, but this was beyond anything she'd prepared for. And now they were talking about specialized care, ongoing treatments. Her phone buzzed. "Emily, how is he?" No preamble, just genuine concern. "Stable." Sarah's voice cracked slightly. "But they want to keep him for observation. The specialist has concerns about his underlying condition." A pause. "Have you seen the bill yet?" "Emily, I can't accept. This isn't charity." Emily's tone was firm. "This is why we fought for the restructuring, the new healthcare initiative we discussed. It starts now. Miguel will be the first beneficiary." Sarah watched her son's face, peaceful in sleep despite the oxygen tubes. "The board approved it an hour ago." Emergency session. Turns out nearly losing a child puts things in perspective. Even for Victoria, the memory of Miguel collapsing, of Victoria's shocked face as she helped clear a path to the elevator, of the entire board witnessing their carefully constructed professional world collide with harsh reality. It all swirled together in Sarah's mind. A soft knock at the door revealed Popo carrying 2 cups of real tea. "The cafeteria staff tried to give me that microwaved nonsense," she said, settling into the chair next to Sarah. "I brought proper comfort." The warmth of the cup in Sarah's hands anchored her as Popo shooed the nurse away with a promise to get the forms later. Through the window, dawn was breaking over the city. "I was so focused on proving myself," Sarah whispered, "on showing them I belonged in their world. Maybe if I'd paid more attention—" "Stop." Popo's voice was gentle, but firm. "This isn't about worlds colliding. This is about worlds transforming. Both of them." She pulled something from her bag, a newspaper, not a tabloid this time, but the respected Financial Times. The headline read, "Chen Global revolutionizes corporate healthcare. Board approves unprecedented employee family coverage." "Your son's crisis may have accelerated the timeline," Popo said, "but this change was coming. You and Emily were already building it." She smiled slightly. "Sometimes the universe has its own schedule." Miguel stirred, his eyes fluttering open. "Mom?" Sarah was there instantly, smoothing his hair. "I'm here, mijo. How do you feel?" "Better." His gaze moved to the machinery surrounding him. "Did I mess up the presentation?" A laugh that was almost a sob escaped her. "No, mi amor. You were perfect." "Indeed," came Emily's voice from the doorway. She entered carrying a laptop. "The board was very impressed, especially with your ideas about making asthma monitors more accessible to kids in sports." Miguel's face lit up despite his fatigue. "Really? Really?" Emily set up the laptop where he could see it. "In fact, the development team would like to consult with you once you're feeling better. They think you might have insights they've been missing." Sarah watched her son transform from patient back to eager innovator as Emily showed him preliminary designs. Luna stirred, waking to join the impromptu planning session. The hospital room felt less institutional somehow, warmed by purpose and possibility. The bill still waited in her inbox, but it had lost its power to terrify. This crisis hadn't exposed their weakness, it had revealed their strength. The worlds weren't colliding anymore. They were melding, creating something new. Popo touched her arm gently. "Helen would have loved this," she said softly. Seeing her vision of corporate responsibility become real, human. Through the window, the rising sun painted the city in shades of promise. In her son's animated discussion of design improvements, in her daughter's thoughtful additions, in Emily's engaged responses, Sarah saw the future they'd been fighting for. Not just surviving, but transforming. Sarah stared at the business. Plan spread across her desk, its pages filled with ideas that had been percolating since her diner days. Community Integration Initiative, read the cover, with a subtitle that had taken weeks to perfect. Bridging Technologies with Real-World Needs. The financial projections look solid, Roberts said, pointing to his team's analysis. Especially the 5-year return on investment for the educational technology rollout. Thomas arranged coffee cups for the strategy meeting. Victoria's going to hate it. Victoria's going to fear it, Emily corrected, entering with Popo. There's a difference. The plan had started as notes on diner order pads, observations about what families really needed, what barriers really existed, what solutions might actually work. Now it had evolved into something bigger, a comprehensive strategy to transform how Chen Global developed and deployed its technologies. Walk us through it again, Emily said, settling into a chair. From the beginning, Sarah stood, moving to the whiteboard where she'd mapped out the core concepts. Her confidence had grown in the months since Miguel's hospitalization, fueled by seeing how corporate power could effect real change when properly directed. "We're approaching it backward," she began. "Instead of developing technology and then finding markets, we start with community needs and develop solutions specifically for them." She drew a diagram showing interconnected circles. Every product, every program gets designed with input from the people who will actually use it. Like Miguel's asthma monitor redesign, Roberts noted. Exactly. Who better to help design medical technology than the kids who need it? Sarah moved to the next section. But it goes beyond that. Remember what we learned from the STEM program? Popo smiled. That opportunity means nothing without accessibility. Right. So each initiative has 3 components. Sarah wrote as she spoke. Technology development, community integration, and support infrastructure. She turned back to her audience. We're not just dropping solutions into communities, we're building ecosystems around them. Emily studied the diagram. The board will want concrete examples. Sarah pulled up slides on her tablet. Take the Roosevelt Public School pilot program. We didn't just provide computers. We created study centers in local businesses, trained parents as tech mentors, and developed software that works with irregular internet access. She advanced to the next slide, showing dramatically improved usage statistics. Result: technology adoption rates triple the previous attempts because we solved the real problems, not just the obvious ones. And the cost? Thomas asked, already knowing the answer but wanting others to hear it. Lower than our traditional deployment methods. Sarah highlighted the relevant figures. When you build with the community instead of just for them, they become partners in maintenance, training, and support. Roberts nodded appreciatively. It's scalable too. Each community can adapt the model to their specific needs, which brings us to phase 2. Sarah revealed the part of the plan she'd been most nervous about sharing. The Community Innovation Labs. Emily leaned forward, intrigued. Go on. Instead of keeping R&D isolated in our corporate facilities, we create development spaces in the communities we serve. Real people working on real solutions, supported by our resources and expertise. Sarah's voice gained strength as she outlined her vision. Students like Luna working alongside engineers. Parents like I used to be contributing their practical experience, all while creating jobs and building local capacity. Popo's eyes sparkled with approval. Helen would have loved this. It's exactly what she and my son envisioned. Technology, serving humanity, not the other way around. The board will resist, Emily said thoughtfully. It's a fundamental shift in how we operate. Let them resist. Sarah pulled out her old diner name tag, which she now kept as a reminder. Every person named in that tabloid hit piece, they're exactly who this plan is designed to help. People with talent, determination, and insights that our current system ignores. She laid the name tag next to the business plan, past and future, side by side. Victoria tried to use my background to discredit me, but that background is precisely why this will work. I've lived it. I know what it means to have potential without opportunity, ideas without resources, determination without direction. The room fell quiet, absorbing the magnitude of what she was proposing. Finally, Emily stood. When do you want to present? Next week's quarterly board meeting. Sarah met her friend's gaze. Time to show them what real innovation looks like. They'll come at you hard, Roberts warned. This threatens the entire power structure. Sarah thought of Miguel, now thriving as he helped design kid-friendly medical devices, of Luna, mentoring younger students in the pilot program, of her former diner customers whose lives could be transformed by technology that actually understood their needs. Good, she said, gathering her presentation materials, because that's exactly what we need to change. The business plan sat between them, no longer just a document, but a declaration of principles, a bridge between worlds, a blueprint for transformation. In its pages lay not just corporate strategy, but a vision of what could happen when barriers fell and bridges rose in their place. The board presentation had been running for precisely 47 minutes when Victoria made her move. Sarah had expected the attack, had prepared for it, but the angle still surprised her. "This is all very inspiring," Victoria said, her voice carrying that precise note of professional skepticism. "But let's talk about what happened at Nextech. Solutions last quarter." Sarah kept her expression neutral, though inside her mind raced. They hadn't anticipated this line of attack. Their community initiative program, Victoria continued, pulling up data on the main screen, showed similar early promises, before collapsing spectacularly and taking 40% of their market value with it. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Market value was their language, their currency of fear. "If I may," Sarah began, but Victoria wasn't finished. "They also hired outside their traditional executive pool, brought in fresh perspectives and real-world experience. Sound familiar?" Her smile was razor-sharp. Within 6 months, their stock had plummeted. Within a year, the board had been replaced. "Is that the future you're proposing for Chen Global?" Sarah felt Emily tense beside her. This was the moment. Either she'd crumble under the assault, or prove once and for all that she belonged here. She took a deep breath, remembering all the times at the diner when difficult customers had tried to rattle her. Stay calm. Focus on facts. Find the real need behind the attack. "Thank you for bringing up Nextech," she said, her voice steady. "I was hoping someone would." That wasn't the response Victoria had expected. Sarah used her momentary confusion to take control of the presentation screen. Nextech's failure wasn't because they hired outside perspectives. It was because they didn't listen to them. New data filled the screen, internal memos, project timelines, implementation reports. Their community initiative was top-down, designed by executives who never left their offices. When their new hires tried to point out the flaws, they were ignored. She highlighted key passages. 6 months before the collapse, their community directors warned that the program wasn't addressing real needs. 3 months before, they documented growing community resistance. 1 month before, they presented solutions. She paused. All of which were dismissed by a board that thought they knew better. Roberts spoke up from his seat. "Where did you get this data?" "From the public record of their bankruptcy proceedings." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. "I did my homework." "Victoria, all of it." She switched to a new slide, showing Chen Global's pilot program results. "Our approach is fundamentally different. We're not just hiring different perspectives, we're actually listening to them. Every program is designed with direct community input, tested in real conditions, and adjusted based on actual user feedback. Patterson leaned forward. The costs are lower than traditional R&D, Sarah cut in smoothly, because we're not wasting resources, developing solutions to the wrong problems. She brought up the financial projections. Nextech spent billions trying to force communities to adapt to their technology. We're spending less to adapt our technology to community needs. Victoria wasn't finished. Pretty words, but where's the profit in social work? Profit? Sarah felt a surge of confidence. This was the opening she'd been waiting for. Let's talk about profit. She switched to her final presentation section. Every community we're working with represents an untapped market, not just for our current products, but for innovations we haven't even imagined yet. The screens filled with market analysis, demographic projections, growth potentials. We're not just solving problems, we're creating entirely new revenue streams. She walked around the table, making eye contact with each board member. Nextech failed because they saw communities as charity cases. We're succeeding because we see them as partners. Their insights drive our innovation. Their needs create our opportunities. Their success becomes our success. Emily stepped forward. The numbers support this. Our pilot programs aren't just meeting projections, they're exceeding them by 40%. And the risks, Victoria's voice had lost some of its certainty. Sarah picked up her old name tag from her presentation materials. When I wore this, I learned something crucial about business. The biggest risk isn't in trying something new, it's in clinging to old methods while the world changes around you. She placed the name tag on the table. Nextech failed because they weren't brave enough to really change. They wanted the appearance of innovation without the messy reality of transformation. We're proposing something radically different, authentic partnership with the communities we serve. The room fell silent. Sarah could feel the weight of the moment, the balance point between past and future. Then Popo spoke from the back of the room. When my son started this company, people said he was taking too many risks. When he married Helen, they said he was breaking too many traditions. She stood, commanding attention through sheer presence. Every great leap forward in our history came from someone brave enough to bridge different worlds. Roberts nodded slowly. The market projections are compelling, and our pilot program results are just the beginning, Sarah finished. What we're proposing isn't just a new initiative, it's a new way of doing business, one that serves both our shareholders and our communities. Victoria looked around the room, reading the shifting mood. Her next words surprised everyone. I move to approve the full program rollout. The board members stared at her. She met their gazes steadily. If we're going to be disrupted, better to be the ones doing the disrupting. At least this way, we control the transformation. Emily's smile was both triumphant and gracious. Shall we vote? As hands raised around the table, Sarah touched her old name tag one last time. The past that Victoria had tried to use against her had indeed shaped this moment, just not in the way anyone had expected. The future they were voting for wouldn't just change Chen Global. It would change what was possible for countless others who, like Sarah once had, just needed someone to bridge the gap between potential and opportunity. Sarah's new executive ID badge caught the morning light as she swiped into Chen Global's first community innovation lab. The facility had transformed an abandoned warehouse in her old neighborhood into a gleaming hub of technology and possibility. But unlike the corporate headquarters' stark modernity, this space hummed with a different kind of energy. Mum, you have to see this. Miguel's voice carried across the open workspace, where local students clustered around prototype stations. Her son's asthma monitor project had evolved into a full development team, with him serving as lead youth consultant. The pride in his voice made her pause in her morning rounds. What have you got, mijo? He held up a sleek device. We redesigned the air quality sensors to be more accurate in humid conditions. Jason's mum said the old ones didn't work well in her restaurant kitchen. Sarah smiled, remembering countless humid summer days at Jerry's diner. Smart thinking, always test in real conditions. Luna appeared from the coding lab, tablet in hand. The educational software team wants your input on the new adaptive learning algorithms. Her daughter had grown into her role as a peer mentor with natural grace. They're incorporating feedback from the pilot schools. The facility filled with more people as the morning progressed. Local entrepreneurs using the incubator space. Community members attending tech literacy classes. Chen global engineers working side by side with neighborhood youth. Every interaction represented a bridge being built, a barrier being broken. Quite a change from board meeting presentations, Emily observed, joining Sarah at the observation window. 3 months had passed since the vote, and each day brought new validation of their vision. Different kind of pressure, Sarah agreed, but better results. They watched as Victoria led a group of investors through the space. After her surprising support in the boardroom, she'd become an unexpected ally, her sharp business instincts helping refine and strengthen the initiative. They're particularly impressed with the retention rates, Victoria reported, joining them. Both for program, participants and employee engagement, Sarah nodded. The numbers told a compelling story. 85% of community participants continued with advanced training. 90% of corporate mentors reported higher job satisfaction, and the first wave of innovations developed in the lab was already generating significant market interest. It's one thing to see projections, Emily said. Another to see real people's lives changing. Through the window, they could see Mr. Henderson teaching a group of seniors how to use health monitoring apps. His volunteer work had inspired a whole program for elderly tech adoption. Sarah's phone buzzed, a message from Jerry with a photo of the diner's new computer learning corner, where Maria was helping customers access online services during slow hours. The initiative had spread organically, each success creating ripples of opportunity. The board's quarterly review is next week, Victoria reminded them. But I don't think you'll have any problems this time. The market's responding very positively to our community-integrated approach. Sarah touched her executive ID badge, so different from her old diner name tag, yet carrying the same fundamental truth. Identity wasn't about titles, but about impact. I never thought I'd say this, Victoria continued, but I was wrong about you, Sarah. You didn't just understand what these communities needed, you showed us what our company could become. Before Sarah could respond, an excited commotion drew their attention. Miguel's team was demonstrating their improved monitors to a group of potential investors, his confident young voice explaining the real-world applications that had informed their design. Next quarter's looking even better, Emily said, reviewing projections on her tablet. The second innovation lab opens in River Heights, and the educational partnership program is expanding to 30 more schools. Sarah watched Luna guiding a younger girl through a coding challenge, saw the same patient determination she'd once shown helping Miguel with homework. Every person in the facility represented a story of potential meeting opportunity, of different worlds enriching each other. Her new ID badge reflected her official title, Executive Director of Community Innovation. But the real transformation wasn't in the title, it was in what it represented. A waitress's understanding of human needs combining with corporate resources to create genuine change. A mother's dreams for her children expanding to encompass an entire community's future. Through the facility's windows, she could see both the gleaming towers of Chen Global and the familiar streets of her old neighborhood. The view was no longer a study in contrast, but a vision of integration. Every innovation developed here would carry that dual perspective, grounded in real needs, elevated by real possibilities. Ready for the next phase? Emily asked. Sarah smiled. watching her two worlds become one. Always. Sarah stood at the river's edge, a smooth stone from the bank turning over and over in her hands. 6 months had passed since the morning she'd pulled Emily from these waters, yet the memory remained crystal clear. The current still moved swiftly below, but today the autumn sun made it sparkle rather than threaten. "It looks different from here," Emily said, joining her at the riverside path. "Less dangerous. Sometimes the most important moments of our lives don't look like much afterward." Sarah skipped the stone across the water, counting the bounces. Just another bend in the river. They'd come here for the groundbreaking of the third Community Innovation Lab, set to transform an old industrial site upstream into another hub of possibility. But they'd arrived early, drawn by some unspoken need to revisit their beginning. "I used to run this path every morning," Sarah mused, picking up another stone, "trying to clear my head before shifts at the diner. Wondering if I'd ever find a way to give my kids more than just survival." Emily watched the stone skip across the water. "I used to walk here wondering if I could ever live up to my parents' legacy, if running the company their way was even possible anymore. And now? Now I know it wasn't about running it their way. It was about understanding why they ran it that way." Emily smiled. They believed in seeing the potential in unexpected places. Sarah's phone buzzed. A video message from Miguel. His team's asthma monitors had just received preliminary FDA approval for clinical trials. The excitement in his face made her throat tight with pride. "Speaking of potential," she said, showing Emily the video. "Remember when he was too shy to present at board meetings? Look at him now. They all want him consulting on their youth-focused products." Emily pulled out her tablet, showing Sarah the latest market analysis. "The community innovation labs are outperforming every projection. Victoria's actually talking about franchising the model globally." A group of students passed by on the path, heading to the innovation lab construction site. Sarah recognized several from her old neighborhood, now part of the STEM mentorship program. They waved enthusiastically. "Ms. Martinez, we finished the coding module early. Can we start on the app development course?" "Talk to Luna," Sarah called back. "She's running a special session this afternoon." Emily watched them go, their energy infectious. "Your daughter's becoming quite the leader. The education team says she has a natural gift for breaking down complex concepts." "She always did." Sarah picked up one last stone, studying its smooth surface. "Even when we had nothing, she found ways to make things work. Like mother, like daughter, I guess." "Like mothers, like daughters," Emily corrected softly. "My mother would have loved seeing this, all of it." The sound of construction equipment starting up drifted down from the site. Soon this quiet spot would buzz with activity. Another bridge being built between potential and opportunity. Sarah pulled the river stone into her pocket, deciding to keep this one. A reminder of where they'd started, but also of how far they'd come. The current below still moved swiftly, but now it carried possibility instead of peril. "You know what I've learned?" she said, turning to face her friend. "It's not just about having the courage to jump in when someone's drowning. It's about having the vision to build something that helps everyone swim." Emily linked her arm through Sarah's as they began walking toward the construction site. "And sometimes the universe conspires to put the right people in the right place, at exactly the right time. Even if one of them is just a waitress on her morning jog, especially then." Emily grinned. "Though I could have done without the near-drowning part." The path curved alongside the river, leading them toward the future they were building. Behind them, the water continued its eternal flow, witness to both crisis and transformation. The stone in Sarah's pocket pressed against her hip, a small weight carrying the memory of that crucial moment when two worlds had collided, and then merged into something stronger than either could have been alone. Above them, the autumn sun painted the construction site in shades of promise. Another innovation lab taking shape, another opportunity for dreams to find their wings. The river that had once nearly claimed a life now nourished new possibilities, its waters reflecting a sky full of horizon. The founding document for the Chen Martinez Foundation felt heavy in Sarah's hands, its weight more than just paper and ink. Building bridges through technology, read the mission statement, followed by both their signatures, no longer just corporate leaders, but partners in something larger than themselves. "The press is ready," Thomas announced, now serving as the Foundation's chief of operations. "And the first group of scholarship recipients is here." Sarah looked through the glass walls of the Foundation's headquarters, purposely located between the corporate towers and the community they served. Young faces filled the lobby, each representing a dream, finally finding its path. "Hard to believe it's only been a year," Emily said, adjusting her presentation notes. "Sometimes it feels like yesterday I was drowning in that river. And sometimes it feels like a lifetime ago." Sarah touched the Foundation document. "Back then I thought saving you was the biggest thing I'd ever do. I had no idea it was just the beginning." Victoria entered, tablet in hand. "The board's quarterly report just came in. Our community integrated development model is being studied by business schools now. They're calling it the Chen Martinez approach." Sarah smiled at the irony. The same board that had once questioned her qualifications now celebrated her influence. But the real victory wasn't in the recognition, it was in the results. The Foundation's first initiative had been ambitious, fully funded STEM education paths from elementary through college, combined with guaranteed internships at community innovation labs. But they hadn't stopped there. "The medical technology division's numbers are exceptional," Victoria continued. "Miguel's Youth Advisory Board has revolutionized how we approach pediatric device design, and Luna's coding education program is being adopted nationwide." Through the windows, they could see the city skyline changing. 3 more innovation labs had opened, their distinctive architecture blending corporate efficiency with community accessibility. Each one served as a hub for education, entrepreneurship, and technological development. "Speaking of Luna," Emily said, "have you seen the proposal she submitted?" Sarah nodded proudly. Her daughter, now heading into her final year of high school, had designed a peer-to-peer tutoring platform that matched students across economic barriers. The pilot program had shown remarkable results in breaking down social divisions while improving academic outcomes. "She's already got venture capital interests," Victoria noted, though she insists on keeping it community-focused. "Like mother, like daughter," Emily teased. The lobby was filling with more people now, community leaders, corporate partners, media representatives. But what made Sarah's heart swell were the familiar faces. Jerry and Maria from the diner, running a successful chain of technology-enabled community cafes. Mr. Henderson, leading a thriving senior digital literacy program. Families from her old neighborhood, their children now coding experts and tech entrepreneurs. The Foundation document listed ambitious goals: universal technology access, educational equity, healthcare innovation. But the real transformation was in the smaller moments: a single parent discovering online education opportunities, a young inventor finding mentorship, a community seeing its potential reflected in gleaming lab windows. "Ready?" Emily asked as the presentation time neared. Sarah looked at their assembled audience. In the front row, Miguel sat with his medical device team, their latest prototype garnering international attention. Luna stood with her coding students, their tablets displaying the apps they'd developed for local businesses. Even Popo was there, her proud smile saying more than words could convey. "Almost," Sarah replied, reaching into her desk. She pulled out 2 items, her old diner name tag and the Riverstone. "Just need my good luck charms." Emily touched her arm gently. You know, my mother used to say that luck is just preparation meeting opportunity, and my grandmother says it's about recognizing the moment when worlds can change. Popo joined them, elegant as ever. You both did that, in your own ways. Victoria cleared her throat. They're ready for you. Sarah slipped the name tag and stone into her pocket, their familiar weight grounding her. The foundation document, in her hands, represented more than a corporate initiative. It was a blueprint for transformation, a bridge between what was and what could be. As they walked toward the podium, Sarah saw not just an audience, but a community. Every face held a story of change, of barriers broken, of dreams taking flight. The Chen Martinez Foundation wasn't just funding opportunities, it was creating a new narrative about what was possible when different worlds came together. Emily squeezed her hand, briefly before they faced the crowd. In that gesture was a year's worth of shared battles, victories, and vision. They'd started as strangers on a riverside path, become allies in a corporate revolution, and emerged as architects of lasting change. The foundation document caught the light as Sarah opened it to speak, its pages holding the future they dared to imagine and were now daring to build. The framed photograph on the wall of the Chen Martinez Foundation captured a moment Sarah would never forget. Her and Emily at the launch ceremony, surrounded by their families, their teams, and the first class of scholarship recipients. The image had been taken exactly 1 year after the river rescue, though it felt like a lifetime had passed between those two moments. "It's time, Mom," Luna called from the doorway. Now 18, she stood tall in her graduation robe, valedictorian cord gleaming gold against the blue fabric. Miguel fidgeted beside her in his suit, 13 and already gaining recognition as one of the youngest medical device innovators in the country. "Just a minute, mi amor." Sarah touched the frame gently, remembering. The photo showed more than just a corporate milestone. It captured the exact moment when her two worlds had finally, fully merged. Emily appeared behind the children, elegant as always. "The ceremony starts in an hour. The entire board insisted on attending, including Victoria." Sarah smiled. "She's giving out the Technology Achievement Awards." Emily joined her at the photo, "though I think she's really there to scout Luna." For the executive training program, they shared a knowing look. Victoria's transformation from adversary to advocate had been one of their greatest victories, proof that bridges could be built in the most unexpected places. Through the window, they could see the Chen Global Towers rising against the sky, but the view was different now. Innovation labs dotted the cityscape, their distinctive architecture a testament to what was possible when corporate power met community wisdom. "Did you ever imagine this?" Sarah asked, gesturing at the vista. "That morning by the river?" "I imagined something," Emily replied, "but reality turned out better than any plan I could have made." The Foundation's office hummed with activity. Mentorship programs in full swing, new initiatives taking shape, lives being transformed one opportunity at a time. What had started as a corporate revolution had become a movement, spreading across cities and industries. Sarah's phone buzzed with a message from Jerry. His tech-enabled community cafe franchise was opening its 20th location. Another from Mr. Henderson, sharing photos of his senior coding class's graduation. Each notification represented a thread in the tapestry they'd woven together. "Mom," Luna's voice held a hint of nerves. Would you help me practice my speech one more time?" Sarah turned from the photo to her daughter, seeing in her face the same determination that had once driven a young waitress to take online business classes between shifts. "Of course, mi amor." As Luna pulled out her notes, Sarah noticed Emily, wiping away a tear. "What is it?" "Just thinking about my mother," Emily said softly. "How proud she would be of all this, of how her story kept going through us." Miguel, who had been unusually quiet, spoke up. Is that why you jumped in the river that day, Mom? Because you saw something that needed to change? Sarah looked at her son, then back at the photo. I jumped in because someone needed help. The change. That came from all of us believing it was possible. The speech Luna had prepared spoke of bridges, between past and future, between dreams and opportunity, between different worlds that only seemed separate until someone dared to connect them. As she practiced, her voice growing stronger with each word, Sarah felt the weight of the journey in her heart. The foundation photo caught the afternoon light, making the moment it captured seem alive again. There they all were, Sarah and Emily. In the center, their families surrounding them, Popo beaming with pride, Victoria offering genuine applause, and faces from both their worlds united in a vision of what could be. It's time, Emily said finally. They'll be waiting, Sarah gathered. Her things, pausing to touch the frame one last time. In her purse she still carried two treasures, her old diner name tag and the river stone, not because she needed luck anymore, but because some moments deserved to be remembered. As they walked toward the graduation ceremony, Sarah saw the future in her children's proud steps, in the innovation. Labs rising against the sky, in the communities being transformed one dream at a time. The river that had brought them together still flowed through the city, but its waters now carried hope instead of uncertainty. The bridge they'd built wasn't just between corporate towers and community streets. It was between what was and what could be, between survival and triumph, between individual dreams and collective possibility. Emily squeezed her hand as they reached the ceremony venue. Ready for the next chapter? Sarah smiled, feeling the weight of both her treasures and her achievements. Always. Behind them, the foundation photo kept its vigil, capturing the moment when two worlds had become one, when a rescue had become a revolution, when a simple act of courage had opened the door to extraordinary change.